This video was recorded live before a canned studio audience. It's Friday Night Movie Reviews, and here they are, Chris and Keith.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you doing? My name is Keith,
I'm Chris.
and this is Friday Night Movie Reviews. Thank you for joining us tonight. We love it whenever you come and see us because that gets our viewership up, and we love that. So we're going to be reviewing a movie tonight, and this movie it's been out for a couple of weeks now because we're a little bit behind, but one of the movies we went and saw was
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
The Final Reckoning. Now, if you were one of those who went and watched Mission Impossible 7 and got angry at the end,
Yeah, called Dead Reckoning Part 1, and now suddenly Part 1 has been like swept under the rug. Oh, no, we're just it is Part 2 of the movie, but we're going to give them different titles.
right. So, Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning.
Yep.
And probably the reason why they did that was because probably the reason why they put the Part 1 to begin with was so that people wouldn't watch it to the end and get mad because it had such a sudden ending.
They gave you some warning, at least with that Spider-Man animated one. A lot of people didn't know that it was a Part 1, and I remember people audibly getting upset when I was in there. They started throwing popcorn at the screen. So at least with this movie, that wasn't the case.
Right.
And so when everybody got to the end, we were like, well, now we just got to wait for the next one to come out, I guess.
Right.
And I will say that if you weren't really a fan of Dead Reckoning, just keep in mind it was filmed during COVID, so a lot of it was on blue screens and all that kind of stuff. This new one,
a lot of that you can kind of tell.
Yeah, it's very limited cast, but this one did not suffer from that. This was not written by AI. This was filmed after COVID, so this one was definitely better than the last one for sure.
Right. So the basic premise of the movie, in case you haven't watched the one before it, MI7, there's this computer virus that has basically been released upon the world by the Russians.
Yep, known as the Entity.
And this computer virus is not just a virus, it is an artificial intelligence that has become self-aware. And it is taking over, it's in the internet and taking over everything, and it's starting to get nuclear codes from all of the countries. And it's about to be World War III.
Skynet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not giving anything away that you can't get from the previews or even from the previous movie. I
will say this, that they give you enough in this new one. If you skip 7, they give you enough to where you don't need to have even seen that one. You can go right to this one. So if you don't want to sit there and watch 2.5 hours, that's basically a prequel to this movie, you can just go ahead and watch this one and skip 7 because they fill you in the dots what happens.
They really do, and they do a pretty good job of doing that.
I will say that this one ties directly into the first one. So I won't tell you how or why or anything like that, but if you ever felt like these movies needed a little bit more cohesiveness, this one provides it. And if this one truly is the last one that Tom Cruise is making, they did a great job on it. So.
Well, it not only ties in with the first one, it ties in with every one of the movies before it.
Yeah. So it's following in that same tradition that Final Destination that we talked about previously. Mm-hmm. It's doing that kind of thing, and maybe another review we might be doing soon.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of loose ends from the other movies that it's basically tying together, and it's really when you watch it, it gives flashbacks. And I'm not going to tell you what the flashbacks are because we're not going to spoil anything, but it gives flashbacks to explain and show what's going on. And when you see these things, you're like, oh, wow. Some of them are like a slap in the face, and some of them are real surprises. So
Yeah,
watch
they
it
did
and
a
pay
great
attention.
they did an excellent job of not spoiling that in any of the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
So I will commend them on that one. And really, to be honest with you, the internet has not been spoiling this movie. You know,
Right.
it seems like with like Marvel or horror movies, they tend to spoil it. So thank you, internet.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think they're it may be because everybody went and saw another movie besides this one,
Yeah,
because it did
yeah,
kind of come out at a bad the release was a little,
yeah,
it went up against a couple of other movies that it may not should have.
yeah. You know, running against a Disney Lilo and Stitch live action movie that's beloved by millions.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
He was taking a good gamble there, you know, and it's just at this point, Lilo and Stitch I think has made double what Mission Impossible has made. So yeah.
But so we're gonna get into the basic premise of it was just like I said. And could you take your kids to see this movie? I would say probably yes, and it depends on your kid. Your kid could possibly get bored during some of the scenes because there are a lot of scenes where there's a lot of talking, and it's a lot of like spy kind of stuff, of course, because it's Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it's a lot of exposition.
A lot of espionage kind of things, and if your child has not seen the previous movies, they may not be accustomed to that, and they may get kind of bored because there's not a whole bunch of there's not at that point. Now, I'm not going to say it's not in the movie, but at that point, there's nobody punching anybody else in the face.
Yeah.
So,
but as far as things like having to like cover your child's eyes or anything, like there's no adult situation.
no adult situations.
Really, the language in it isn't really bad because it is
Right.
a PG-13 movie.
It is.
So it's not littered with anything, you know.
Right. It's not terrible. You're not going to have to, keep stuffing your fingers in your kids' ears. We took my son to see it, and my son actually enjoyed the movie because it was enough action to keep his attention. Now, the thing is, what you have to understand about this is it is Mission Impossible, so it is full of impossible action scenes. So
yeah.
But it has the storyline to go along with it, and like Chris said, you don't necessarily have to see 7 in order to see this one. So if you didn't see 7, don't worry about it too much. You can see this one; it still makes sense because, like he said, they connect the dots.
There's just like little beats that they don't necessarily go over, but they're not really that important.
Right.
I really felt like it's kind of like how older movies used to do. They used to kind of refresh your memory because this was back before video.
Mm-hmm.
They would refresh your memory with the sequel, showing
Right.
you what happened in the previous film to catch
Right.
you up to date in case you didn't see it.
Right.
And I felt like this one kind of fell in that same tradition. That's something you don't really see in movies very often
Right.
anymore. So it was nice that he threw that. But I know that Tom Cruise is more of an old school Hollywood type.
Mm-hmm.
So him doing that, and I think he realized too that the viewership on the last one wasn't as good. This one definitely made up for the last one.
Right.
People were ready. So even though it did run up against the juggernaut known as Lilo and Stitch, it still made a good amount of money.
And
so.
it wasn't as bad as like TV shows. Last time on Mission Impossible 7. It wasn't that bad.
No, definitely not.
But it still did kind of do that, and it was but it was done well. So yes, you can take your kid to see it. They might get bored during it, and this is a long movie.
Yeah,
this movie is long. So
2
get
hours,
ready.
2 hours and 30 minutes of just straight Mission Impossible.
Right. So once you get your refreshments, you might want to head to the bathroom before you sit down for this one because it's long. And I would say you don't really want to miss too much of it because if you do, some of what's going on might not make any sense.
Yeah, because they like to do the setup about the heist part of every
Mhm.
single movie. And believe me, the heist in this one, the stakes are just as high as they ever are, and that's some of the best part of the movie. You're waiting for that, where they plan the heist and talk about how impossible it is, and then somehow Ethan Hunt is going to make it happen, kind of thing. And this one's no exception to the rule there.
Right. So, I would say you could take your kid to see it, but you might want to warn the kid first before you give them the choice to go that it could possibly be boring in parts, because it is at least 2.5 hours long. So let's get into what we actually thought about the movie.
Okay.
As far as I go, it was, like we talked about, very action packed. It had a lot of the espionage and a lot of things like that going on in it, and so it was really, to me, it was more than just a shoot 'em up, beat 'em up kind of film. It had more substance to it, and I really enjoyed that. It reminded me a lot of like the old James Bond movies.
Yeah, this one's basically it's like the Americanized James Bond. That's really what these movies are, and I agree. And, it's more than just people getting punched in the face. Like there's, the whole espionage part of it behind it. The heist, everything else, and there's like all the smart tech that they do. It falls more in line with a James Bond movie. And so I will give them that. So it's not just punch people in the face, but for a young child, that's the parts they're going to remember. That's the parts they're going to enjoy.
Yeah, and if you've seen any of the other Mission Impossible movies, yes, they still do the whole thing with the masks and the voice kind of thing. So they still have that kind of thing going on in the movie, and it's actually really cool because they do some extra little things with that as well. I enjoyed the movie. I was very entertained for the 2.5 hours that we watched it, and where I can see that some people may have been disappointed with the ending, I actually liked the ending. I'm not going to give anything away with that, but it was overall, the entire movie was quite enjoyable to me, and I liked it. If I was to give it a rating, I would say I will give it probably about 8 popcorns.
See, I was thinking the exact same thing. 8 is exactly what I had in my head. This was 8 Pepsis. And the only reason I give it an 8 is because just the length of the film. It could have been shorter. They could have cut up this film and made it just a little bit tighter. And there are other sequels that I enjoyed more than this one. I really liked Rogue Nation. That one's really good. I really liked Fallout. I thought Fallout was an excellent sequel. And luckily, some of the ones I'm mentioning were all done by the same writer-director, Christopher McQuarrie. So,
right.
And he's the guy that Tom Cruise always brings him in to like patch up scripts and everything else. And he's actually been with Tom since Mission Impossible 3 because he actually helped him patch up that script. And Mission Impossible 3, it just made such an impact with these films because 2, I know some people like it, but it was definitely the weakest one of the series.
Right.
And then 3 came back with such a bang, and I think Christopher McQuarrie is a lot to thank to that. So if you notice, that's the reason why there's been so much consistency with all these sequels because he was the director of all of them.
Right. And the consistency is definitely there because the storyline just continues from one movie to the next, and I really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. And plus this one is better than the last one. I felt like really the first one was more of just like a filler movie. I mean, yeah, I know it helps build to what this one's going to end up doing, but still you really could have like taken these 2 movies, trimmed them down into one movie and just called it a day. Right.
You probably could have. But I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much that way. I think I enjoy it the way it is because you get the whole story.
True.
And we both know that whenever they edit a movie and chop it up like that, you don't get the whole entire story, and you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell. I mean, how many times have we come home from a movie and said,
"Oh, that was..."
They should give they should, when they release it, they should put the edited stuff back in it.
That they took out, yeah.
That they took out because it would have probably been a whole lot better. It would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah. And, the other reason I give it an 8 is just because you can watch it together as the entire series, do like a marathon watching of all these, and it'll hold up with the rest of them.
Right.
So again, this is another series similar to Final Destination, where you have a consistent series of movies that you can watch from beginning to end and be like, okay, these are good.
Right. Right.
So yeah, definitely 8.
Definitely an 8. And I believe that I believe my son actually gave it I think he gave it about 9 slices of pizza. So
and I think it primarily had to do with that ending. How the main villain is dispatched at the end was so satisfying.
Yeah,
it was.
And he jumped up and cheered.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, it wasn't a yay. It was a yes, pointing at the screen. Yes, it was really funny. So, but yeah, it got a very emotional response from him, and so he kind of liked that. And he talked about that all the way home.
And I can't blame him, because it definitely left an impact with me. And everybody else that I know that has seen it has talked about that death.
Yeah.
And believe me, it's well worth your time to go see. So pack the family up, go see the movie. As you would say, it's definitely worth the cash.
It is, yeah. So is it worth the cash, or is it trash? I would definitely say that this movie is definitely worth your cash. Definitely. Well, there's our cue to go.
Yep. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Remember to hit that bell notification for when our next video drops. Leave us a comment. What did you think of The Final Reckoning? Tell us what you thought. If you have any ideas for any other movies or television shows or streaming for us to review, let us know in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you for joining us. We enjoyed having you tonight. We enjoy watching us. Look, tell your family and friends about us and let them know. Have them subscribe. Sit them down and make them do it if you have to. Listen, pack your friends up. Go and see this movie, because this is definitely worth it. And when you go and see it, remember, enjoy your movie.